Hey, what's going on YouTube? It is Neil here from EDM Tips for another round of the live feedback sessions. For those of you that were here on Friday, you probably saw we ran into a few technical difficulties, but good news, Will and I sorted them out earlier today. We should be good to roll and, good to move forward in full here. Before I actually go about kicking this off, I know that we were running into, because of the technical issues, we didn't quite manage to get this, everyone on board. So I just want to make sure that we actually have people here for this live stream. Otherwise, we might make the decision to just kind of hold off until Friday. So I'm going to just kind of hang out here for a little quick, see what all is going on in the chat. So far, it looks like it's actually just Will and I that are watching and are here. If you are watching, you want us to have this right now today, please drop us a message in the chat. Let us know that you're here, that we've got an audience, and we will absolutely run this. Otherwise, like I said, we'll probably just hold off until this coming Friday and launch the full Feedback Friday then. I see we've got Jesse, Mr. Nine Worlds Music in the chat here. What's going on, Jesse? Seeing we got a couple of others. What's going on, Daniel Austin, Lowski? Awesome. This is cool. So we got some people here in the chat. How are you guys all doing today? We're definitely going to go ahead and run this forward, at least for a little while here, since we definitely have some people tuning in. Seeing a quick question pop up in the chat from EBDrup or EBDrup here. If you want to submit a track, we've got some information in the description in the comments, or I guess like in the description of this particular video. But to quickly summarize, basically you've got to be part of the EDM Tips Academy community on Facebook and submit your tracks to Feedback Friday there. Awesome. Well, I'm doing super well. Thanks for asking here, Lowski. Guys, with this, let's go ahead and kick things off here. So if you're tuning in for the first time, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the EDM Tips world here. What we do during these sessions is we pull up a lot of submissions and a lot of tracks from our active students. And we've just got this hour set aside to, have a little bit of a listening party, provide some feedback. Not only, from you guys in the chat and whatnot, but I'm going to be listening. I'm going to be dropping some, really professional feedback and some comments on these to really help, get you guys to the level that you want your tracks to be at. With that, like I said, let's go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to switch over sharing my screen here so that we can get this party rolling. So if you were here on Friday, you know that there were a ton of submissions. Like, I don't even have all of these submissions open here, and there's like 24, 25 of them or something. So we've got a really, really nice kind of long list going on here. We're going to do our best to make it through all of this. I'm going to be spending anywhere from like 30 seconds to 2 minutes listening to a track, kind of depending on what's needed. I'll be interjecting my comments throughout. And as always, I would love for you guys to be dropping your comments in the chat. If you hear anything that can be improved or anything that you really like, let them know in the chat. A lot of people that have their tracks submitted here are tuning in live. Are watching these, so let's help them out. Let's give them some love when we hear a track that's just an absolute banger. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and kick it off. So like I said on Friday, if you were here, you actually probably heard a little bit of this track before the stream cut out, but I don't think it was fully fair to Jimmy because of how much we lost. So we are going to go ahead and review this track again. I'm gonna start right from the middle here. We'll play out, like I said, a little bit, and we'll just kind of chat about it. Let's see what we got here, guys. Lovely melodic drum and bass vibes here. Those drums are just sitting perfectly in the mix.
How are they producing this?
I think one of the comments that I made last time I heard this track, and obviously it's not going to be any different since the track hasn't changed, but I'd love to get a lot more of those atmospheres that are super far back right here and bring them up a little bit forward in the mix. Right now, like, the way that they're sitting against each other is perfect, but the way they're sitting against the drums is a little bit too quiet. That bass is really, really nice. I think maybe just a touch more saturation and volume. Not too much because it'll very quickly overtake the rest of the mix, but even just that little bit extra to give us a little bit more low-end weight is going to help this one out.
So can I ask a question, speaking of sound?
Love that transition moment. Maybe like a little bit of like noise or some sort of like effects transition right here, like a whoosh. kind of help tie those sections together. Past that though, honestly, everything about this is working really nicely. The vibe is on point. Guys, if you have anything else that you might suggest for Jimmy, drop it in the chat. And otherwise, let's give up some love for him. Great track to kick off today with. And let's keep the party going. Moving on to track number 2 here with Pete Poindexter and Calling Out Your Name. Pete's hit us with a couple of really solid tracks in the past. Let's see what he's got this time. Nice little effects, little splashes and stuff in this intro. Maybe just like a little form of Foley, something that's a little bit more constant in here, I think could help out. Yeah, Jack's suggesting in the chat maybe some glistening sound like bells. I think, yeah, exactly. That sort of high-end, just glistening texture would be really nice in there for sure. Really cool groove cutting in here. We've got a little polyrhythm going on between that bass and that high-end hit. I think the biggest thing for me is that right now it's all located in like the center of this mix in terms of that low end and that bass. Get that bass nice and wide and you're gonna have like a super huge feeling to the song itself. Maybe bring those like vocals up just a little bit in volume, help them kind of stand out a little fuller. Really solid groove going on here. Tell you what, I'm gonna jump over to the later sections of the track, see what's kind of going on there. So hear that little extra kind of chord pattern added in. The one thing I did notice though is that the energy jump when I actually jumped over here wasn't that big of a jump. So I might look to add 1 or 2 extra elements kind of near the end here to help thicken it up, give a little bit more of that noise, give a little bit more energy, like something like another drum or percussion layer could do the trick. Really solid groove here. I think what we need is just, yeah, like a little bit more, just another layer, something to give us something a little bit more tangible up front in the mix. But I'm digging those atmospheres. I'm digging the groove. Seeing in the chat here from Nine Worlds Music, one of our EDM tips, a masterclass alumni, and one of our coaches and kind of lead instructors here as well, suggesting maybe a little bit more high mids, and I think that would probably be nice, along with a little bit of low mid body as well. So you've got that mid range like really nicely taken care of. Let's just get a little more up top and a little more down low. All right, great track here, Pete. Like I was saying from the start, the groove was just absolutely killer. The sound selection and stuff was also on point. So let's just focus on beefing up what you've got in there. All right, let's give it up for Pete in the chat. Really, really nice track here. Will's also, before I move on, I see that Will, Mr. EDM Tips himself, has suggested to put in a punchier kick with more sub and compress the vocals a bit more. And, you guys know he already knows exactly what he's talking about. Those are both spot on. I think that sub end of the kick is going to help it punch through a little bit more, give us that low end weight that we need. And then the compression on that vocal is going to help it come to the front of the mix a lot. All right. Up next, we've got Milesy with Floating Breaks here. Adam Milesy has been just dropping some absolute heat for us, so let's see what he's got this week. Really nice atmosphere from the start. I want a little bit more like the noise that you have in there, just louder in the mix to help give us that high end as well. The reason we want that high end at the start of a track like this is that low mid-range really often doesn't come across clearly or loudly on a lot of consumer speakers, like especially if someone's just playing it out of their phone. If they're in a car or something else of the sorts, a lot of that tonality is going to get lost. So we need something in the high end to help carry that intro and let them know that, hey, music's actually playing here. Nice textures on the drums. I think maybe a little bit more reverb on them, especially on that big snare to help set it back in space and match the rest of the space of the mix would help. And then I think a little bit of a subbier, punchier kick would also be nice. This one's just like currently a little bit noisy and flat in comparison to the punchiness that I think we could be getting here. Really lovely atmospheres through and through. Maybe bring that vocal up just a little bit more, like with a little bit of like a mid-high range boost. Not too much because it'll like quickly become harsh in that area, but I think we do need just a little bit more forwardness of those. Let's skip ahead, see what we got near the end of the track. So one thing that Milesy has done here super well is the rhythmic motif going on. Right? Even though we're changing up the notes in that melody a lot, we have a very constant rhythm. Da 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 da. And that, you know, because it stays consistent, we're allowed to move around on the melody and yet still feel a string of consistency through that track. So really well done here. Guys, let's give it up for Milesy with Floating Breaks here. Drop it in the chat if you've got any other suggestions. One quick thing, if you guys are watching, if your track comes up here, like I close this and your track's up next, if there's a certain moment in the track you guys want me to be playing, make sure you drop it in the chat and just let me know. I know just because of live, there's like a little bit of a delay, so that, you know, it might be another 10-20 seconds before I actually see it. But I will see it and I will jump ahead to that point. So just let me know, of course, if there is a certain section that, you know, you absolutely want me to be listening to. Otherwise, let's keep it going. And up next, we've got Wesley Griffin with Cacophony. Wesley is, I guess goes by Wes here, is an alum of the masterclass. It's been a while since I've actually heard anything directly of his, so I'm personally super stoked to see what he's come up with. Let's see what we got going on. So right off the start, we have that high-end atmospheric texture that I was talking about and needing to get it to cut through a mix. So really great start. Nice, so since we got to mix it, I'm gonna just kind of skip ahead here, maybe like hit through this build into that next drop. Really nice atmospheres and textures in here. I think I'd like a little bit more motion in that like atmosphere, maybe with some heavier side chaining or some sort of like LFO movement to get it to bounce up and down a bit more. So I like how the energy is building here. If you want that to be like a perceived drop, then I would make sure that we have some sort of riser going into that moment. If this is like still kind of part of the build, I might suggest like filtering that kick at first when it comes in, just so that we have a little bit of a smoother transition up here. It sounds like this might be a build that's going up, so let's see what it gets to here. And this energy is just constantly rising and rising. It's got a really good sense of tension to it. I think it's like the reverb on that bass, it just feels like it's constantly building and getting louder and louder. I think I want like one other sort of riser layer in here to really make it clear to the listener that this energy is like building in every aspect and not just through like subtle things like the reverb. Very nice, very nice. I think the biggest thing I'd say for that is like I noticed that there was like this low end thing that kind of rumbled out a couple of times or echoed out a couple of times throughout here. Like right there, it's going like wah, 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 wah. I would like mute the last hit or two of that just so we really create a sense of emptiness and a pause before that beat comes right back in. Otherwise, though, I think like the vibes, the groove is on point. I think the biggest thing here is focus on beefing up what you've got a little bit more and creating a little bit more separation in the mix. Right now, I think it was mostly because of the atmosphere and the reverb, but everything felt a little bit overlapping in the center. I think if you can get a little bit more stereo width on some of your tonal elements and then dial back that reverb a little bit, maybe sidechain it to some of the main elements to get it to tuck further back, that's going to help create a little bit more space and a sense of separation in your mix, which is in turn going to lead to it feeling bigger and fuller in the very end. All right, seeing some other few just great suggestions in the chat here. So, from Nine Worlds here, feeling the lead could be just a little bit louder, a tiny bit of a 3K boost for more presence. I completely agree, maybe some high-end saturation as well in there. Jack is saying the melody might need some work on the groove. I think this one, could go either way a little bit. I think that if you add a little bit more groove to that melody, it'll make people dance more. But I don't necessarily know that it was problematic as is. So this is, kind of becomes up to your taste to a degree. If you really want to get people moving and stuff on the dance floor, play with some syncopated rhythms more so in that melody. Otherwise, like I said, I don't think it's like necessarily problematic. So if you want that slightly more low-key pace, you're probably fine. All right. Let's keep it going here. Up next, we've got Star Delta with Dancing, Groove, and Flying. I'm like almost entirely positive that this is one of Star Delta's first submissions, if not his very first submission. So I'm super curious as to what we've got going on here. Just jump straight in. I like the syncopated rhythm between those like chords and that kick going on, and the way this high-end melody's hitting in those spaces in between. So I think one of the big things that I want is a little bit more reverb connecting these chords in particular. They sound just a little bit dry in the mix, and everything sounds a little bit dry. So I think some just reverb applied across the board is gonna help smooth things out, fill in some of that empty space, and just generally make the track feel a little bit more connected. The groove is really, really nice here though, for sure. Like dancing and grooving for sure. Maybe like continue to filter out that like plucky lead throughout this, or that plucky kind of chord-like layer for a little bit longer instead of just cutting it out. Another big thing that I think is going to help you out here is just some hefty saturation, kind of across the board on like everything but your atmospheric elements. Like the drums could definitely use some thickening, the chords and these leads could all use some. And then the other kind of big thing is that I would like an active bass line in here. Like I get that low end thump of the kick, but I'm not really getting a bass line that's bouncing and moving against that, which is really gonna bring this track to life and get people really dancing and grooving. So number one thing, just add in a bass line. If there is one in there, I'd say just bring it up in volume a decent amount, because I was losing it to the rest of the mix there. All right, seeing Will's agreeing with me on the saturation as well, so that's always a good little thing. Having two of us say that you should do it probably means you should give it a shot. All right, let's keep it going here. I know we got a lot of tracks to get through. As something that we've been doing here, so like we said, most of these tracks are going to be coming from the EDM Tips group. If you want to be getting feedback on yours, like guaranteed and on a regular basis, make sure you're signing up for something in the Academy and posting to those Feedback Friday threads. And again, we've got more information on that in the description of this video, so feel free to check that out. That being said, every single stream, I'm going to take like 1 or 2 live submissions. So here's your heads up, get ready. If you're watching and you haven't yet submitted a track, go find your SoundCloud links, get those ready to share. Don't share them quite yet, but in a little bit, I'm going to ask for those links. I'm going to pull one randomly from the chat and we'll see what we've got on that. But before we get to that, Up next, we've got Figtronica with Saw Daddy, or maybe just Saw Dad, not entirely sure. This is Michael Figgy here from the Masterclass. He has just improved leaps and bounds in the last couple of months, so huge shout out to what he's been doing. He's also been just super active in the group, so just want to, give him a big thanks for, always chiming in, always helping people out, giving people suggestions, that sort of stuff. I know we got a lot of you guys that are watching right now that do exactly that, so don't feel like I'm not, super thankful for you as well. Just since we got him up here, might as well give him that shout out. So with that, let's go and give this a play and see what we got. Nice little delay in atmosphere here. I think just like that little effects noise here, it actually just came up. I'm gonna play this. That little thing, that perfect. Let's get something like that starting right at the beginning of the track to help give us that atmosphere, that sense of space in between these hits. Like that vocal in the center while the leads and the plucks are super wide. That sounded really nice. Love that deep vibe. Maybe just like a little bit more on the bass and just a tiny bit less volume on those plucks. At loud volumes, honestly, like you're gonna be totally fine, but it's super quiet volumes. We lose a little bit of that low mid range and we don't perceive it quite as loudly. But I think just a little bit more there. Whew. Yeah, when those hi-hats and claps kick in, like man, I am grooving away. Very, very nice. This groove is actually so strong once these hi-hats come in and stuff. I kind of want some degree of like either a filtered hi-hat or a perk layer that has this groove hitting in this section as well, just so that like the moment you press play, the dance floor starts moving around a little bit. I love that little switch up you do to that arpeggio or like this main lead line, and like instead of just going like da 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 every time, at the end of your phrases you have like a note repeated or one note changed, and that single change and that single variation is doing wonders to keep this interesting. Ooh, loved that noise splash right there. Pair that with a sub drop, like a vroom sort of thing that kind of sucks the floor out at that same moment, and you're gonna just send goosebumps down people's spines, guaranteed. All right, what a stellar track, stellar groove and stellar vibe. I think the biggest thing, Michael, let's just get to it sooner. So bring in some of those other elements that are like really making this track work earlier in just like kind of like a teasing way. So maybe filtered, maybe a different layer that shares the rhythm or something of the sorts. But honestly, overall, really, really killer track here. Let's give it up for Figtronica with Saw Dad, and let's keep it going up. All right, at this moment, I'm going to make the call. After this track, we are going to take one live submission here. So if you're watching and you want track feedback, drop your link. I can't promise that we'll get to it. I'm going to pick one at random. But, every single week, one or two of these, we're going to have a live stream, just so we can start getting some more of you guys involved as well. So just get those links ready. Again, after this track, we're going to jump to one of those. So here we got the Bells Brothers with Enough of Your Love version 2, 99% certain as well. This is a first time submission, so let's see what we got. Nice little DJ mix in. I'm going to just kind of skip ahead since we got a little DJ mix in. Great groove here. I actually take this back. I think I have heard an earlier version of this track a while ago, so it's nice to hear this kind of update. Definitely a lot more groove going on in here. that groove of like the kick, bass, and clap there is just, it's getting me going for sure. Well done with this. Maybe a little bit more thickness on that bass though. Like it sounds a little bit mono and a little bit thin, so maybe adding just like another layer with some width to it, or just adding more voices to the synth and then saturating it up a bit to give it a little bit more of that beef and weight is going to be really nice. So one thing I'm noticing with this vocal, it's got a really lovely atmosphere and texture to it, but I am getting a little bit of mid-range buildup as a result. I'll see if I can play that again. So in that kind of section, I'm hearing a little bit more of like the ho sort of sound than the like actual intelligibility. So what I'd recommend doing is taking a little bit of an EQ cut to those first couple of fundamental frequencies in the vocal, and then maybe boost up the high end just a little bit. And for that, boosting a coloring EQ of some sorts, like the SciQ by Sound Toys, something like the VEQ1P models from either Waves, Black Rooster Audio, or any of the guys that do that. Just something to give a coloring EQ boost to that high end would be really nice on those vocals. Let's skip ahead and see if we got anything else in this track. Seeing Mr. EDM Tips here dropping in the chat suggesting a punchier, subbier kick, or stubbier kick here. Yeah, I think I would agree. Something with a little bit more weight, thickness, and tightness to it. This one's kind of like smeared out just a little bit too much. Seeing a couple of great suggestions here in the chat as well. Mr. Westlake72 just suggested maybe a little chorus on the bass. I think that would actually work wonderfully. That's gonna have a very similar effect to adding voices in that, you know, you're gonna add some width, add a little bit of extra texture in there. Definitely worth a shot. Awesome. Let's give it up for Bells Brothers here. Really nice track. I think, you know, just to reiterate, the biggest thing is like beef up what you've got. All right, with that, guys, let's go ahead and open up the chat for a live submission. So if you're watching here and you haven't already submitted your track to the EDM Tips Facebook, you know, on the Feedback Friday thread in Facebook, now's the chance to get a little bit of professional feedback. If you're watching and you've got something you want that, drop that link in the chat right now. Like I said, I'm going to pick one of those at random. But until I see one come in, we'll go ahead and just keep on kind of moving through this list. So let's see what we've got up next. Up next, we've got Natty New King with Find a Way. Nice little image here with Nemo. Let's see what we got going on. Really cool vibe to start this one out. Really nice kind of groove. Like I felt it switch a little bit in a good way when that snap came in. So like really nice touch there. Really cool groove going on here. The one thing I might recommend is like an occasional reverb splash on that tight snare. Because right now I'm getting a lot of like kind of start and stop to this drum group. It's like da 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 da, right? And I think having a little bit more of a connected phrase so that, like, you know, maybe once in every measure we have a stop as opposed to twice is going to help out a lot. I like the groove of this bass line that's come in. It's a little bit tricky because it's sharing a lot of the same frequencies as those like pulsing chords that you've got. What's nice is that those chords are off to the side and that bass line's in the center, so you have a degree of separation. But then the conflict is that the drums are also sitting right in the center, so those are eating up the high end of the bass line just a little bit. I think your best way around this, one, beef up that bass line, get some saturation, get a little bit of high-end EQ boost in there, maybe add a little bit of stereo width, but then the biggest thing I think that's going to help is try side chaining your chords and those pad layers, the sustain layers, to that bass line, so that every time we get that little dunk, 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 it cuts through just that little bit extra in the mix. Nice. Like that little crash to carry us out. Awesome. Yeah, really great vibe. Seeing one other suggestion in the wheel, there's maybe a little bit of muddy low end in there, and I would agree. So maybe taking some like fine EQ cuts, the unwanted frequencies, to make sure that you're really only getting like, you know, that fundamental of the sub, the one fundamental of your bass, and there aren't too many kind of overlapping, you know, layers and textures down there. All right. Really great vibe. Good stuff here. Let's keep it going. Up next, we got Jack Parker, who I know is just, you know, constantly active in the chat here. What's going on, Jack? I'm stoked to see what's up with this work in progress name track. Clearly still figuring out that, but that is quite all right. Let me know, I know since you're watching here live for sure, let me know if there's a certain moment I should skip ahead to. Otherwise, I'll go ahead and just kind of start playing it off here. Guys, Jack Parker is another masterclass admin who has been absolutely crushing it, so not to put the pressure on quite yet, but I bet we're going to have some heat coming in here. So let's see what we got. Very nice, Jack. I can tell you've been listening to my feedback here because like you got that high-end atmosphere coming in right from the start of the track. Really, really nice. Love that slapback on the vocal. Really cool effect. Got my whole chest moving up and down here. Like I'm not just moving my head, like my whole body's forced to bounce up and down here. You've just absolutely nailed the side chain. I think the kick itself could be a lot punchier, louder, thicker, and tighter. So maybe just find a different kick sample that's just got that tightness and low end to it. So what you've got basically going on is like the drums, the vocals, all the high-end textures are like kind of smeary, kind of spattered, which is really, really nice. But to get that to work as well as we can, we need to contrast that against something that's really clean. And since it's the entirety of this like mid and high range that's kind of smeared, our only opportunity is to clean up that low end. So maybe like, yeah, find that tighter kick, maybe rein in the bass a little bit so there isn't quite as much release and reverb kind of sound to it. Instead it's a little bit tighter, and I think that's going to be, you know, a really nice foundation for your track. Let's see what we got coming into this final build here. Don't wanna speak your name. Keeping up the rules, yeah. Very nice. Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the kick, right? Will's got a great suggestion here, right? Like if the kick needs to be a lot louder, and we see that this is kind of hitting near the top, sometimes it's more of a matter of just bringing everything else down in the mix, and then that kick becomes relatively louder still. Yeah, that'll keep us from running out of headroom like Will said in the chat there. Great suggestion. Awesome. Okay, so really, really cool vibe, great groove, great textures. I think the biggest thing for this one, focus on making that low end really tight and punchy. Really what you should be able to do is like filter out everything of the high end of your track, like, you know, everything above 150 hertz. You should be able to press play and still feel the need to dance because of what your kick and your bass are doing against each other. All right, really killer track here. Great job with this one. Stoked to hear where this one goes, Jack. So yeah, keep up the grind on that. Let's give it up for him in the chat. If you have any other suggestions, of course, drop them in. But man, what a beaut. Cool. So seeing just a quick question in the chat. Might have thrown my link a bit too much. Can I drop a SoundCloud link here, a track that I did? Yeah, so usually, you know, these feedbacks are going to be limited to within the Feedback Friday thread in the EDM tips group. We've got some information on that in the comments here. Will has pinned something to the chat as well. But once or twice every single stream, I'm going to be calling out a a random submission. So yes, absolutely. I believe that's, I apologize if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name, Ejike, or Ejike. But yes, feel free to drop your SoundCloud link in there and I will get it queued up and we'll give it a quick listen here. All right, so up next, we've got Dan Hurricane with Take My Hand. Let's see what we got, Dan. Really nice, rich, full, and like reverb-heavy piano. That sounds nice.
I remember the car rides.
Maybe like a little bit of like a slapback or echo on that piano would be nice to help create a huge sense of space.
Anything more than a friend, but now I see you in a new light. We're getting older. There's a sparkle in your eyes that was
on the vocal, in addition to the reverb of the vocal, we've got a little bit of buildup in that mid-range here. So same as my comment previously, let's take a mid-range EQ and kind of scoop out some of the fundamentals of the vocal here, and then instead, like try boosting up the high end a bit more.
I don't wanna wonder what could have been. So baby, take my hand and let my love in. So baby, take my hand and let my love in.
I think at this moment, I really like how you strip back most of the movement, but like maybe just like a filtered clap that hits on those kind of downbeats would be nice. I want to hear this transition really quickly again. I'm going to take us back. So it sounds like at this moment we've got a key change, and once it settles in, it's nice, but at first it's a little bit abrupt. So I might recommend just kind of like retouching the chords here. And actually at that particular moment, once the vocals and the chords come in together, they are out of key with each other. So because it's all working well here, and this is where we run into conflict, I'd probably just recommend changing these new chords that come in so that they are staying in tune and in key with the rest of the track there. Great groove, great mix though here. But like once it gets going, this sounds really, really nice. I think the biggest thing is just that like conflict in the tune of the chords and that vocal.
When we were 15, I remember the car.
Yeah, so right at this moment, we're back to that kind of original chord progression, and now they're in key and working together again.
Is anything more than a friend, but now I see you in a new.
Honestly, Dan, you've got the bones for a really, really nice track here. The arrangement makes a lot of sense. I think the only, like, the biggest thing that's going to make such a huge difference is getting that whole kind of series of chords that starts right around here and plays through that drop to be now in key and in tune with those vocals. So my biggest suggestion, just kind of copy the basic root progression that you have going on in the first part of the track as well. Otherwise, I would say just kind of, you know, pitch up those entire chords like a few semitones. I don't know exactly what it's going to take to get them in key, but I think anywhere from like 1 to 3 semitones should do the trick. Cool. Got another, comment from Will here in the chat, which is super valuable. He says it also sounds like 2 track ideas in 1 track, which is a common mistake that he's made before. I've certainly made it before. Any producer out there has made this before. So we've got, this like very like upbeat, synthy kind of driven section, and then we've got this very kind of low key, slower kind of calm vibe. And the key word there is vibe, right? The vibe of these 2 sections is a little bit different. So it's probably worth honestly just like cutting this at that transition moment before those chords come in and like write a new section from then on out. And then in the same vein, like cut it here and then write a new intro to the chords that you've got, because they have 2 slightly different vibes to them that don't necessarily complement each other. Outside of that though, like with those 2 changes, you've got a really, really killer track here. Like the groove works, the vibe within any given section in isolation is like right where it needs to be. So really, really great track here, Dan Hurricane. Let's just get those things in key, maybe switch up the arrangement a bit so that things are a little bit more consistent. All right, up next we've got David Nealon with Right Now version 2 here. David's been around in the Facebook group for a little bit. He's been coming up with some heat, so let's see what we got from him. Yeah, that intro's got me hooked right from the start.
Right now. Yeah.
really cool synths. We've got some unique chords going on here, right? Like these aren't just our standard root triads. We've got some cool extensions, some nice interaction going on between that kind of R player and that bass line. I don't know if like any of you guys watching ever played like the video game Portal, but it reminds me a lot of the music that would be perfect for that game.
Right. Do it now.
There is a little bit of tonal conflict going on right here.
Yeah.
I think it's the vocal and that R player are conflicting with each other at this moment. See, my hat's about to fly off with excitement here, maybe, Jack. I really love how wide your bass is and like the spread that we've got on those drums as well. I think we've got a really nice sense of stereo width at this particular moment. Let's skip ahead, kind of one of these last sections.
Right. Do it now.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for tuning in, that guy.
Yeah.
So I think the other big thing that I would hear in here, while the R player kind of spreads out nicely, we still have a lot going on right in the center. And it does compete a little bit with that vocal. So maybe try just getting that R player to be mostly wide and not have as much in the middle there. Awesome. All right, killer track here, David. I think once you get that kind of key situation worked out between the ARP and the vocal, you're going to be in a really, really nice golden spot here. All right. So just because I don't think I've seen anything come through the chat, but apologies if I just missed it. If you're watching and you want feedback on a track at this point, drop that track in the chat and we will get to it. Otherwise, we're going to keep this going forward. We've got up next Tonal Syntax Phase 2. I'm fairly certain this is Mr. Bruce from our Facebook group here. Another guy that's been around for a while. He literally just joined in the masterclass, so I think this is even a pre-masterclass track. So you guys are going to get to see the evolution of him over time, which is pretty cool. Let's see what he's got going on right now with Phase 2. I love that pitch bend in those chords right from the beginning. I think we do need just a little bit more like noise or Foley texture. Really cool rhythm going on here. It does feel like it might be a little bit too much on the grid. So if you're in Ableton, play with the groove pool. If you're in Logic, play with the swing. Sorry if you're in a different DAW, I don't know what it is, but play with the groove, shuffle things off so that you get a little bit more motion in those drums. So one of the tricky things about a track like this is your percussion has a lot of this like mid-high range noise. And your bass line also has that texture for its tonality. Like your bass line, because it's got that really nice low end and then some hollowness in the mid end, we need an empty upper mid-range for that bass line to be able to cut through. And because our hi-hats and our percussion shakers are kind of filling up that space, the bass line's not quite cutting through as much as we could get it to. So ways that you could get it to cut through more is either through some high-end EQ boosting on that bass, maybe some multi-band expansion to help get those plucks to pop a little bit more, maybe a little bit of very light side chaining on some of your drums to that bass line, just so that when it plucks, we get that initial attack, it cuts through just that little bit extra. I think during this whole section, like, wash that out with even more reverb and delay. You've started hinting at that effect and it works really nicely, so much so that I actually want way more of it. The biggest thing that I'm kind of noticing compositionally about this is that we might have a little bit too much tonal motion. So we've got that bass line that's kind of moving around, and then we also have this like mid-range melodic pad layer. I guess it's more of a lead than a pad. Yeah, I think there's just a little bit too much tonal motion here. So maybe one of those, layers that's moving around to different notes, see if you can just sit on one note instead, or maybe just simplify it back so there are fewer notes being played. Awesome. All right, well, great vibe with this track. Great initial kind of core foundation and groove. Like I said, I think we just need to focus on getting the groove to be a little bit more impactful so that there's a little bit more, off-grid motion there. And then, to reiterate, simplify the rhythm melodically a little bit from some of those. All right. Up next, who do we have here? Blank screen, might have to refresh, see if that pops it in. Cool. All right. So up next, we've got Hash Trash here, Mr. DJ Hash Trash with Continuum. Let's see what we've got going on with this track. Nice little DJ mix in, so I might jump ahead here to like the break section. Really nice vibe. On those like sort of plucks that are coming in, I think I want a little bit more like growth in each of them. So either with like some utility volume automation or something like an LFO tool, maybe get a little bit more like where it like ducks down and then grows a little bit more steadily. Also, a lot of width on those plugs will be super, super nice, especially during this section. That'll create this like humongous sense of atmosphere for the track. These chords that are hitting in that like mid-high lane like might benefit from a little switch up. I think the middle note and the high note in there sound like they're creating just a tiny bit of conflict. This has a super huge big feeling, like really, really nice. Nice job with the bass here in particular. Let's see what we got with this build. That was super cool and unexpected. I will say that it does kind of switch up the vibe a little too much with these new like house chords that came in there. I think it's probably going to be in your best interest to like take those chords out and find something without as many of those like 9th and 11th extensions and stuff. Those very typical like deep Chicago house style chords. Just you and me. Awesome. All right, really great track, really great groove and vibe here throughout. I think, just the biggest thing, there's too much of a vibe switch at this point. So get like, changing up the chords that are playing throughout this drop to match what's going on here a little bit more vibe-wise will be just absolutely killer. All right. Cool, guys, we got about 10 minutes left here. Also about 10 tracks. Naturally, we're not going to make it through all of these. And like I said at the beginning, this isn't even actually the full list of tracks. There's probably like another 10 tracks that got submitted this week that I didn't even queue up because we had so many submissions. So first of all, thanks for submitting. I'm stoked to see that amount of activity. If you see your track up here, if you submit and we just don't get a chance to get to you, I've got your name set aside. Every time that we don't get to someone who submitted, I put them at the top of a priority list here so that next time we run a session, they're going to be up first. So if you are getting missed, don't sweat it. Just tune in next week, and it's pretty much a guarantee that you're going to get your feedback then, so long as you resubmit. So I'm not going to like go back to old previous week's threads and that sort of stuff to queue up tracks, but so long as you're continuously submitting, if you're there, you're going to be at that top of that priority list for sure. All right. Okay, so let's see. Up next, I'm going to have to refresh this. Might have to do that for a few of these guys, it seems. Made SoundCloud upset when I opened like 25 different tracks at once. All right, so up next here, we've got Numa with Just Never Let Me Go. It's a working title. EDM2. Let's see what we've got. Now that's creepy. I gotta start and play that again. That was cool, especially with the image here of this, like, you know, creepy bunny here. Really, really neat.
Just never let you go.
I think just before I keep playing this, I would love a little bit more atmosphere or texture, right? We've got this really cool like toy piano box sort of thing, or that music box sound, which naturally gives us like this kind of like almost like brooding horror feeling of some sorts there. To add to that even further, add some sort of Foley, like a really faint like cricket line, or maybe the sound of someone walking across creaking wood. Something to just create a little bit more going on there. Apologize for my dogs absolutely losing it in the background. Looks like someone just walked by our house, and that's just what my dogs love to do. All right, so let's see what we got here. I might mute myself because my dogs are just going nuts, and we'll talk about this in a second. I love this little switch up. I think that layer needs to be a lot thicker and a lot fuller, because just at the core of its sound, it's a bigger sound. We need to emphasize that we're going from this thin little music box to this super big synth. Vibes are absolutely on point with it though, for sure. That's some cool sound design.
Just never let you go.
Really great vibe, awesome melody there. I think the biggest thing is just going to be in your mix. We just need a lot more thickness and saturation on the main elements. So like the drums, the lead, I think your bass could use just a little bit more thickness. And then I'm also getting just a little bit of muddiness and rumbliness from that bass. It sounds like too much of that low end is spread a little wide. Maybe dial that in just a little bit, and that'll help clean it up a bit as well. Gotta see what this goes into. It's a really great groove at this moment. I think because you have a very noisy kind of build up during this section, you need like another hi-hat or something else to kind of fill in that high end of that drop. All right, guys, let's give it up for Numa with Just Never Let Me Go. Really, really killer vibes. I think that once this one gets to where it needs to be in terms of processing and the mix down, you're going to be, you know, hypnotizing people, creeping them out thoroughly. So really, really great job with that track. All right. Up next here, we've got MRP with DNB V1 here. Guessing this is a drum and bass of sorts, which I'm absolutely loving the amount of drum and bass we've been hearing in the group recently. Let's see what we got from MRP here. So that like noisy intro is really nice because, you know, like I was saying earlier in the chat, it allows people with phones to really hear it. I think the low end chords and atmosphere that you've got are just too quiet relative to that. So either bring up those chords a little bit, or more likely just bring down that atmosphere, probably anywhere from like 5 to 10 decibels to start. Some sort of cool polyrhythm going on here for sure. Again, that noise is just a little bit loud, I think, in the mix. Really nice, you know, groove. I love like the switch up, like the vibe feel and everything of this. What I'm missing is that like really clear drum pattern. So I can hear like there's that faint hi-hat thing off on the sides that gives us that drum and bass, like the almost amen break style thing. But in the overall track, really what I hear, like especially if I step back a little bit, I kind of mostly just hear the kick and that snare. So maybe bring up those hi-hats a bit. Maybe also like consider layering in hi-hats with a little bit of a lower tonality, because the current ones are very noisy and very much in the hi-hat. Really nice transition there with the filtering. That was lovely. Yeah, seeing in the chat, just huge props to everyone who submitted. And of course, yeah, our feedback here is meant to be nothing else but, stuff that's meant to help you guys, right? No hate, no judgment whatsoever. I'm personally super impressed every single time I hear a track, because I know when I was your guys' stage in producing music, it did not sound that good. So just, yeah, keep it up for sure. Will's suggesting a shuffle for the beats. Yeah, exactly. I think that probably because of the time delay and stuff, but exactly that. I think we need a little bit more of that in there. Seeing more gods suggesting a deeper bass. Honestly, you probably could get away with a little bit of a deeper and louder bass. Not too much, especially in that sub end, because I think the super low end is right where it needs to be, and any louder is going to eat up too much headroom in your track. Right, really beautiful track here. I think the biggest thing is let's just focus on getting that drum pattern to cut through a little bit more, and then maybe thicken up that low end, like that low mid end, just a little bit, and you're gonna be in a really great spot. All right, guys, we are coming up on the top of the hour. Let's give ourselves time for just one last one here. Looks like we've got it from AA Johnny DJ with Complicated. Let's see what that ends up actually coming out to be. Oh, Johnny Cabri here with Complicated. Awesome. So Johnny's definitely been around for a little bit here in the Facebook group. Definitely been active. So huge shouts to Johnny for just everything that he's been contributing in these Feedback Friday threads. Let's see what he's got going on with Complicated here. And this is our last track, guys. So let's show him some love. Let's get some great suggestions in here, and let's wrap this up strong. Going on here from the start. I think my biggest point of feedback already is that too much came in too early. And because we've got a lot of different things going on, it makes it a little bit tough to really kind of understand what we should be paying attention to right from the start. So just maybe add another section before this, or simply strip back a few of these layers here.
I shouldn't ever have to feel this way, but every time I try to walk away, you come around and start to love me better. Why do you get overcomplicated? I shouldn't ever have to feel this way, but
same kind of comment going to these vocals. There's just a tiny bit too mid-range and not quite enough hairiness on them. Try emphasizing the high end with an EQ boost, and I think it'll be good for this one. To be a lot louder and a little bit punchier in the mix. Right now it seems a little bit too far washed out because of the reverb and just the volume that's on it. I think the biggest thing for me is that the mid-range of this track is super lush and super filled up, right around here. But I'm not quite getting that low-end cleanliness, that weight and thickness that we need. And then the high-end seems almost a little bit smeared along with those mid-range elements. So, maybe some careful EQ cutting on some groups and stuff, just to make sure that every group of instruments is kind of living in its own space in the mix. I think that's going to be gonna be helpful here. All right, you know what? I don't know why, but I'm not seeing that link come through. Let me see if I can just like scroll up in the chat and find it. Not sure why it's not making it to me. Tell you what, do you mind just dropping it one more time in there? I had my chat set to like the top chat and stuff, so there's a chance that like it just got filtered out or something. Otherwise, if it's not coming through to my end, I'll have to figure something out and figure out why I'm not getting those links dropped in the chat here. But with that, guys, I think we are going to go ahead and call it here. If I see this last track come through, I'm going to sit for a second because I know we got the delay. And we'll see what we got from, again, really sorry if I'm butchering your name here, Ijike. But yeah, we'll see what we got going on there. And otherwise, guys, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up and call it. I know we still, like I said, have a few tracks that we didn't quite get to, so fear not. Your name is now at the top of that list for next week. So if you're watching and you're just super bummed that you didn't get feedback, I am really sorry, but we just got to do what we can with the time that we have. So with that, yeah, okay, so I'm looking at the chat. I can see that you guys apparently got this link, but for whatever reason, I'm really sorry, Ijike, it's not showing up for me. Yeah, I have no idea why it's getting filtered out. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing it in there. There's a chance that YouTube chat is just kind of limiting it. So I apologize if that is the case. We'll take a look on the back end and see if we can't figure out a way to get a couple of live submissions in here. I might just have to like create a Google form or something of the sorts. But yeah, I'm not seeing in the chat, seeing confirmation from a couple other people that it's not coming through here. So yeah, not sure if you're getting like some sort of error message or something. With that, also seeing from House of Hardwood saying not my track today. Yeah, I'm really sorry, man, but we are just, quite frankly, out of time. I got to get going here. But like I said, if you submitted a track in on that Facebook thread, I've now got your name set off to the side here, and we will definitely get it in. And tell you what, Ijike here, really sorry again that we couldn't get you, shown up and stuff. Tell you what, if you make it to this coming Friday's session and stuff, and if you want to send me your track, in advance, like if you just reach out to us at, I'll drop my email here. Then feel free, and we'll try to get it up in the next one. Oh, nice. And Will just also dropped his little email link here. So either one of those will work, and we'll definitely make sure that we get it next time. So yeah, thanks very much for tuning in. Sorry we couldn't get to that track, but yeah, we'll get there. So with that, guys, I want to say a huge shout out and thanks to everyone who stopped in and participated. A special shout out to everyone dropping their extra feedback in here. As you guys saw, we had a really nice kind of like mix of genre, skill levels, and everything else of the sorts. A few just absolutely golden ones from some of the masterclass students. So if you're wanting to get up to that level yourself, I'm going to say check out the masterclass page. We've got it linked in the comments of this video. We also have a really awesome little $200 off coupon for you. This is unique to the live stream. So if you're tuning in, you want to learn a little bit more about the masterclass, check out that link. Make sure you're using this code NEIL200 at checkout, and you'll get an extra $200 off of that course. Of course, if you have any questions on it, never hesitate to reach out to us. We absolutely love doing what we're doing. We're super passionate about it, and we want to share this information with as many people as possible. So we're always open to chatting about it. Let us know if you're interested and you want to see if it's the right fit. Again, if you do, if you're ready to move forward, make sure that you're using that NEIL200 code to just get that extra $200 off. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up. So thanks very much for tuning in, especially given that this was kind of a makeup stream. You guys have been awesome as always. I'm super stoked to keep these going. Our next one is going to be this coming Friday at 2 p.m. MDT. So the exact same time that we just had this at, but on Friday. So super stoked to see a lot of you guys there. To the rest of you, hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks for joining in, and I will see you guys around.